guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I did actually try to film this video whilst this one was napping, but she had other ideas, so I thought I'd just quickly film it because it's not going to be a long video, and Heidi's normally probably going to be in quite a lot of these now because she just really fights the naps. If you've kept up to date with our monthly updates and our vlogs, you'll just see she doesn't nap at all. So without kind of rambling too much, this video is going to be slightly different. It's going to be one about things I didn't expect when I was expecting, and I actually got this video inspiration from Madison Miller. She's a American YouTuber and vlogger, and she recently, or a few months before Heidi was born, she had her own baby called Riley, and she basically did this same video, and it was quite refreshing actually because it was quite nice, someone talking about how their experiences were so different to what you kind of expect, and I felt like I had things to share as well. So I'll link her video down below if you want to watch that, but this is going to be our take on things that we didn't expect, or I especially didn't expect when we were expecting. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. So my first point is going to be about actually the process of her coming out basically, and the thing that I didn't expect was that you can get dilated so quickly, and I always had this expectation that labour was really long, and almost it was the case for everyone, that it was, you know, over a couple of days or at least a day that you'll spend in hospital just kind of labouring, and you'll do all of these different techniques to get you to fully be dilated, whereas I actually went to hospital and I was fully dilated, which wasn't something I at all expected, and it actually made me panic a little bit. Initially I was like, oh my god, thank god, because I just want this over, but even at home, before I knew I was fully dilated, I was just like, I'm gonna be such a wuss. If this is like the easy bit, then what am I gonna be like? But actually it just happened really quickly for me, and I never ever expected that. I really thought it would be a case of you go into hospital, they might even send you home to start off with. That was the first thing that I said to the midwife. I was like, am I going to go home? And she was like, no, you're staying in and you're having a baby very soon, which again I was just like, what? But I just always had this expectation it was going to be really long, and that only like the lucky few get it quick, whereas it did happen really quick, and it can happen very quickly as well. The next point as well is about the birth, and I never expected that when they said like your body will start pushing and you'll just know, I didn't realise like your body physically starts to push and you're like, oh my god, like it's happening, because your body is literally trying to push the baby out without you doing anything at all. Obviously you need to assist your body and you need to help it because that's not enough, but she was just like, just relax for now, you'll know when it's happening. And I was thinking, what if I don't? Like, I didn't really know what to expect, obviously, especially as this was my first baby. I really didn't know what to expect, but obviously she was right, and your body really does start to like tense and push. I did not expect it, and it was so weird. It was such a weird feeling. The next point, again, to do with the birth. Yeah, you. And that's the fact that C-sections can happen to anybody. I was such an advocate that I didn't want to have a C-section. That was always like my worst case situation. I remember when my midwife thought that she might have been breached to start with, I was just thinking, please don't, because I just don't want to have a C-section. That's like the worst possible thing ever. But I didn't really, obviously that decision was made in my situation. But what I didn't realise is that C-sections really aren't all that bad. And I know that like recovery is different for everyone, isn't it? So recovery can be totally different for everyone, but in my experience it really wasn't all that bad. Recovery was so much better than I anticipated. As soon as they basically said like, you're having this C-section, like there's no other way, I just thought, oh my god, I'm not going to be able to do anything for like 6 weeks, and I'm not going to be able to drive for like 8 weeks, and you hear all these horror stories, I guess, because obviously it's encouraged that you give birth naturally, but I panicked a little bit when they said about the C-section, but now I'm like, would I do it again? Because I know what to expect, and it just wasn't as bad as I thought. So I guess the takeaway from this is that emergency C-sections, they are decided in case of an emergency and can literally happen to anyone, but don't panic, like don't let it worry you, because they're just really not as bad as you might think. Now the next point is to do with Heidi, and this is also something that Madison spoke about in her video, and it's on the case of hematomas. I think that's how you pronounce it, but basically this one, so you can see that she's got like a little birthmark on her face. Don't you? So that's not something that's going to be there forever, and they are so common. I think my doctor said it's like 1 in 4 babies get them, or some degree of them. I'm not 100% sure. But again, Madison speaks quite a lot about how they come in different types. I'm not going to pretend that I know all that information, but it's nothing to worry about, and they will basically, like, when they're born, they're not born with it at all. So when Heidi was first born, she didn't have anything on her face, and like obviously we didn't notice it, but as she probably got to about, well, actually I remember it when we took her for her 6-week checkup, and that was when the doctor actually noticed it, and he said this is what to expect. So you can get them on your, or you can get superficial ones, which are basically like on the face and they're just like on the skin, and then you can get other variations where they're like a little bit deeper in the skin, but they can appear anywhere on the body. Heidi's one is obviously on her face, and it's really, really common for them to be like on their face or on their head. But the good thing with them, unlike like other birthmarks, so basically this will get bigger until she gets to about 1 year old, and then the doctor said it will literally just shrink, shrink, shrink and disappear. He said it was so common, and like don't worry about it, because obviously my worry was that in today's society, unfortunately, like if you have anything kind of different in your appearance, is that you are really like likely for people to say things, not even necessarily bullying, but obviously it just makes you slightly different. Obviously it doesn't bother us, we think that she's absolutely beautiful, but we'd hate for her to like grow up and begrudge us not like looking into ways that we could like change it when she was younger. But the doctor said like if it doesn't go away by the time she's 1, by the time she's 5 it will be totally like gone, and then you'll look back on baby photos and think that was so weird. But he said they're so common, so it's nothing to worry about. I know I've had a few questions when I've like uploaded things to Instagram, people just asking like kind of what it is it, I know one person thought it was a cut and stuff, and I don't mind answering questions about it because it is a part of Heidi. What's cute about hers is that it's like a little heart, and it is still kind of getting a little bit bigger because she's not even 6 months old yet, so there's still a little while. Obviously whilst her head grows, I think it just basically grows with it, and then it will just shrink and disappear. So I didn't realise how common they were, and I didn't realise as well that they can develop after they're born. So basically just keep an eye out when they get a little bit older. But even when the doctor first noticed it, I didn't even notice it. I thought it was just like a bit of a scratch or something, but then it just developed into a little bit of a birthmark. But unlike normal birthmarks, it does just disappear. And her one as well is specifically called a strawberry nevus, and yeah, there are so many cases of it, and like there are so many people that like ever since I've spoken about it for Heidi, there's a lot of people that I know that have said like someone in their family's had it and stuff like that. So it's super common, it's nothing to worry about as well, and there's no point doing anything like to treat it while they're like young like babies, because it does go away on its own. I also didn't realise when I was having a baby just how little time I would have for myself while she was still so young. And I know this sounds silly because obviously you're having a baby, you're not going to have any time for yourself. Like, and I completely anticipated it fully, but I just imagined that especially like at 4 or 5 months old that they would have like set naps and sleep a lot in the day. So even though I expected to like, you know, be occupied with her for like 80% of the time, I always thought that there'd be like 20% of the day where I could like get stuff done. I kind of said to Rich before she came along that being on maternity leave, the house is always going to be spotless, things like that. But I just didn't realise how little she would end up sleeping and how little I get done in the day. And as someone that's quite productive, it's really, really difficult. And even things like filming like this, you know, she's having to join me to do it because otherwise I just wouldn't film anything. So I hope you don't mind that she's a part of these videos. But you just don't sleep, do you? And as well, it can kind of get overwhelming for you because you don't even have like half an hour in the day to just unwind a little bit. It can just become a little bit overwhelming, and it's just good to just speak to people and put a plan in place for like if you do feel like it's getting on top of you, that someone can take them for like an hour or two just to give you your own headspace, because I think that's really important. Something else I didn't know, and it's really common in like newborns and really young babies as well, and definitely something we experienced with Heidi, is that there's this thing called the witching hour, which is basically, or it can happen any part of the day, but we experienced it an hour before we'd give her her final feed of the night, and basically they cry non-stop for like an hour, full pelt crying for no reason whatsoever, and it's so common as well. And it's called the witching hour because there's just basically nothing that you can do. It's just them screaming. But it happens to so many people. But there's literally nothing you can do. You have to let them, basically, you obviously comfort them, but there's nothing you can like physically do. She would never take the bottle during that hour. You try and change them, things like that, but you just seem to realise that it was a bit of a pattern, that they just basically like to cry for an hour. And Rich's mum said that all of her kids had the same thing. She has 4 kids, and they all went through it at different points of the day, but they all experienced it, and it's just one of those things. Heidi doesn't do it now, but during those first few weeks, I remember Rich being like, I don't know what to do, and like she just said, you can't do anything, you just need to comfort them and let them know that they're okay. Now, the next point, and I think that this is, again, slightly to be expected, but I didn't realise how intense it can be, and that is to make sure that you communicate with your partner fully as much as possible. If you are struggling, tell them. If you are begrudging the fact that you're not getting an hour to yourself of a weekend, tell them. If you're having a down day, you have to let them know, and if you are getting annoyed, just talk to them because it's so important, and it really puts a strain on your relationship. I find it crazy that some people have children to try and save their relationship, because I feel like everything is put under a microscope and everything is so intense, and it changes your relationship 1,000,000%. I didn't expect it to change it so much, obviously for the better in so many ways, but the time that you both have together is very, very limited, and it's just ways to like relish those moments. And if you do have like an hour spent together, just make the most of it, but just talk about it to each other. And honestly, communication is just so important. I think especially as well on the subject of postnatal depression, that's not something that I've experienced, thank goodness, but I do know people that have, and a lot of what they say kind of built up inside of them was the fact that they didn't talk to their partners at the beginning about how much they were struggling or how tough they were finding it and how overwhelming they felt. And I think it's the same for men as well. Men can get postnatal depression, so it's equally as important for them to talk to their wives about how different things feel and how they are feeling about the process. At the end of the day, it's new for both of you if you both are having a first time child, but even if like you're welcoming a new child and someone else has a baby already from a different relationship, the dynamics are so different, and it's just so important to communicate. And obviously, like, if you feel like your partner's not doing enough and you're doing everything, again, just be honest with them, because don't bottle it up, because you'll just explode, and that's no good for anyone. And the penultimate thing that I want to talk about is the fact that your hair falling out after postpartum is so common. I saw a statistic, and again, I don't know how true this is, but it's like 1 in 2 or 1 in 3 new mums will experience hair loss. And that's because obviously you grow so much hair. I mean, I found that my hair got so much thicker during pregnancy and didn't really fall out at all. Like, and it's normal for your hair to fall out a little bit, obviously. But during pregnancy, my hair was like really thick and lovely. And you can kind of see here where I've got my hair up, there's these little bits here where it's a little bit thinner. And that's basically where it's kind of shedded a little bit. I haven't experienced it too bad, which I'm thankful for. And it's only really when I put my hair up like this, which is most of the time because Heidi just pulls out my hair. But yeah, it's so common, and don't panic, it doesn't last forever. And there's so many things you can do to help, but the best thing is just to ride it out, don't let it affect you. But yeah, unfortunately there's not too much you can do. You can take hair, nail and skin tablets, which are meant to be really good as well, so potentially take those, but it's going to happen basically, so no tablets is going to save it. And my last point on things that I didn't expect was to do with feeding, and I've touched on this in so many videos, so I'm not going to ramble too much about it, but I really didn't expect the fact that exclusively pumping was an option. I thought that you either breastfeed or you bottle feed with formula, and I didn't realise that when she didn't latch on and that process of breastfeeding just didn't happen, that I could pump and continue feeding her, which was great to start with, and I exclusively pumped and fed her for the first like 4 months, I think, which was really like testing and was really difficult actually looking back, and I'm so happy now that like I'm basically not really pumping anymore, which is something I'll talk about more in a future video on how I totally stopped. But I just didn't expect that to be an option and then be expected, if that made sense. I feel like there was so much pressure on feeding in the hospital. I had just come out of an emergency C-section. I hemorrhaged, I lost a lot of blood, and their first priority was to get her to breastfeed. And I really tried, but I didn't even do skin to skin with her in the theatre because I lost so much blood. I had to have a warm blanket like on my chest to like keep me warm, and it was just really like intense. When I feel like if you were to have had surgery for any other means, the focus is on your recovery, but there was so much pressure on breastfeeding, which I know they have to do it because not that many people do breastfeed, but I feel like there's like a time and a place almost, and I was really struggling. I'd gone through something so big, and that's all that they were concerned about, not how I was feeling. I don't think anyone asked me how I was feeling until the anaesthetist came in and basically said like, are you okay, like how is everything? But the midwives never did, which was quite a shame. But yeah, I just didn't realise the feeding journey would go as it is, and now she's on formula, I just feel so much better. And at the end of the day, fed is best. She's going to start weaning soon as well, aren't you? So, you know, I'm absolutely fine with the decision. At the end of the day, if she didn't react well to formula, I would have kept doing it, but it was too hard. She doesn't sleep in a day at all, really, so to actually find 20 minutes to pump every 3 hours was just not going to happen, and that's okay. I tried and I did it for as long as I could, but I just didn't expect that to go the way that it did. And so that's it for this video, isn't it? Ow. So that's it from us. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a big thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe, because on social media it's really easy to just post the highlights and the great times, and it's kind of very easy to just kind of brush away the things that you don't expect, that maybe don't go quite to plan. And we'll see you guys in our next video. Bye guys.